Hello everybody, welcome to Deluxe Collectibles, and today I'm going to be going over LEGO Ninjago and whether or not I think Aspheera could end up returning at some point in the future, and also the Scroll of Forbidden Spinjitzu as well. And I wanted to discuss this, of course, specifically because recently we had the LEGO Ninjago new J minifigure get revealed for 2022, and it kind of sparked a few points that I wanted to discuss in separate videos, and I thought it was now the time to sort of talk about my theory here. And I have done previous videos as well talking about villains that I think could return at some point, and I think this might provide us with a little bit more proof potentially of Aspheera maybe returning at some point. So of course that character wound up being locked up in Cryptarian prison, of course, at like the middle part of Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu, of course, season 11. So we saw that character get locked up, so they do have quite a large potential to be able to return, because of course that's just simply breaking out of Cryptarian prison. I know that that might not be the easiest thing, but I think it could definitely tie in somehow to the Vengestone buyer if for some reason they needed Aspheera's like assistance with something of that sort. And Aspheera has been around for a long time as well, so maybe they need some information from her also that they might not be aware of. So I think that could be really interesting to explore, sort of whether or not Aspheera would wind up helping out that main villain. And I think it could almost be a somewhat similar dynamic to sort of how Pythor ended up helping the Overlord. Well, the Overlord kind of stayed in the shadows, of course. Pythor was the one kind of doing all of the grunt work, so maybe you could potentially see something like that with maybe a bit of a twist where Aspheera, of course, tries to betray whoever this like Vengestone keeper is. So I think that would be really interesting to see as well. I think that could definitely be explored in a cool way. And then of course directly with the minifigure, now this could potentially just be a gimmick set. I talked about this in a separate video where of course when we get these Ninjago figures like this, sometimes they're not a part of the actual like main sets, they're just a part of the gimmick sets and then aren't really considered canon within the actual show. So that could be the case with this figure, but let's just consider it as an actual canon figure and that we're going to see this appearance for Jay in the actual season, and most likely Kai and Lloyd as well. If it were to go this route, I personally am on the side of it just being a gimmick figure. I think that maybe it could still play some sort of role. Maybe we could get other versions of them in the actual sets, but just not this specific version. But I think that could still prove that maybe somehow Forbidden Spinjitzu is going to come into this. Now I know on the actual set name list for these figures, they're labeled as Power Spinjitzu ones. Now of course that could just be in translation, that's what it translates to, but it could just be Forbidden Spinjitzu. But it's definitely very interesting because of course we've seen like things like this sort of return, like sort of like unlocked elemental like power-ups for the ninja. Of course we've seen things like, let's say, air jitsu return in Prime Empire, so we could see something like this come back. It's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities. And of course one of these scrolls of Forbidden Spinjitzu is still out there at the moment. Of course one was destroyed by Zane over in the Netherrealm, but of course there is still one that is available for them to maybe bring back into the story. I'm not sure specifically how that would wind up tying into it or why they would necessarily need this. Maybe it's something that they need to kind of counteract the effects of the Vengestone somehow. I think that could be kind of interesting because of course that's going to be quite a big thing that they're going to have to overcome, because that of course disables their powers. So they're going to need something that's going to either be able to counteract that or enhance them or something of that sort. So I think that could be really interesting to see them get some sort of power up like that, and also intriguing as well because it kind of corrupts them a bit. So maybe that could also play into the storyline that at least I've been kind of pushing for a bit in most of my theories, is that Kai kind of going off on his own. Maybe this could somehow wind up being something that he ends up getting his hands on. Maybe they're discussing the potential of trying to use the scroll in some sort of way, but all the ninja are kind of like apprehensive to it considering what it did wind up doing in the past. And of course maybe that would kind of make Kai think that, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go off on my own, I'm gonna get this myself, and I'm gonna rescue Nia on my own. So I think that could be kind of cool. And I definitely do think it could be pretty interesting if they did explore something like this in the storyline, because then it can sort of create a divide between the ninja, and I think that would just be kind of intriguing to see, almost like a similar sort of divide between Wu and Aspheera in the past, of course, thinking that they could kind of trust one another, but then sort of being betrayed by each other if you look at it from each person's perspective. Of course with Aspheera considering it that Wu betrayed her, and then of course Wu thinking that Aspheera betrayed him, which I would argue is the side that I would side with personally, but it's just kind of intriguing. I think it could definitely lead to a cool storyline for the future of Ninjago, but let me know all of your thoughts and theories down below on this. Would you like to see Aspheera return? I know that the first half of Season 11 isn't super fondly looked upon, but would you be willing to give it a chance for this character to return and then see them sort of have a new sort of role and dynamic within the series? I think it definitely could be something cool to see them try out. So let me know all of your thoughts down below. If you did enjoy this video, it would be highly appreciated if you could leave a like down below. Also subscribe as well if you would like to check out some of my other content. That would be highly appreciated. So thank you so much. I will see you all next time, and always remember, keep on collecting.